Welcome to the special presentation this week titled, It's All About That Dividend. My name is Todd Shaffer, Manager of Research for VectorVest, and I'll be providing your special presentation this evening. Dividend yield is very important in this current economy. VectorVest offers the tools you need to select and manage your income portfolio. When it comes to dividends, VectorVest reports annual regular cash dividends as indicated by the most recent payments. Special distributions, one-time payments, stock dividends, etc. are not generally included in our dividend data point. So, let's begin in the program now with our dividend viewer. From our home page, we'll go to our tabs up top and go to the Viewers tab, and then from our Viewers toolbar, we'll select Dividend Viewer. Companies announce their dividend on the execution or X date. This is the date the owner of record is established. The payout or paid date is the actual date of distribution to that owner of record. This viewer helps us identify companies and their associated X and payout dates. Beginning with the drop-down box, notice that we can view all stocks. This might be helpful if I want to find stocks with upcoming dividend payout dates. I can filter by stocks and enter a grocery list of symbols that I'm interested in finding out when they pay their next dividend, for instance. And finally, filter by watch list. This might help you find dividend-paying stocks in a particular index watch list, like the S&P 500, or a watch list of stocks of your own. Switching back to the View All Stocks function, I can then also select a date range, say within maybe the next 60 days. And then in date order, as I scroll through the list, I can see execution and payout dates for each of these stocks. Of course, I can also, by using the radio buttons, limit it to just X dates or just pay dates. The UniSearch tool can also use this data to help us find stocks that are due to pay a dividend. Let's go over to the UniSearch tab. And the important parameter line would be to come into the parameter window, select Stocks, Dividend Analysis, and from our dividend indicators, choose Dividend X Date. Operator, you can then see just displayed dates, or a date that is greater than or beyond a specific date range or closer than a specific date range. So let's say a dividend X date that's less than 90 days out. If I run that search, I've now sorted in VST order all of the stocks that have an X date closer than 90 days out. Here's the X date and the paid date, so that data is then added as a field to your search results. I could also creatively add this line to any UniSearch search that I build or currently exists in the system. I might also filter this list by a watch list. For instance, stocks I currently own. My current dividend payers. And now when I run that search, it would return to me any of the stocks that I currently own or any stocks in that watch list that are scheduled to pay a dividend within the next 90 days. I could also release the limitation and just say, no, just tell me the dates of everybody in that watch list. Run the search again, and now I'll see all of the stocks within the watch list and their next scheduled dividend payout date. Of course, if it's blank, then that next payout date's not yet been scheduled, or is at least not in the data set. Now, you might have noticed some other criteria when we looked at the dividend data. There are other criteria listed under this analysis group. So let's take a look at some of these proprietary indicators in our dividend analysis tools. that help us understand a company's dividend performance. To do that, let's move to the stock viewer. As you may know, the stock viewer is organized into sections. We begin in the company information section with the company, its symbol, the exchange it's on, and the most recent price action. We follow that with a capital appreciation section, which includes all of our VST analysis as well as earnings analysis. But if you keep scrolling to the right, you'll find all of our dividend analysis. Beyond that, our price and volume data, and finally, sales, market cap, and the industry and sector information. To learn more about our dividend analysis, let's right-click on the stock and open a stock analysis report. Of course, the stock analysis report goes through all of the indicators that we have in the stock viewer. If we scroll down, it's in the same organizational structure, so we'll scroll down to the dividend analysis section. So I'll read from the report while you guys take a look at the indicator in the stock viewer. We'll begin with our dividend indicator, DIV. Simply by clicking on any of the column headings, you can resort that column, either ascending or descending. So Amen Property Incorporated pays the largest dividend at $80. And we learned from the stock analysis report, the VectorVest reports annual regular cash dividends as indicated by the most recent payments. Special distributions, one-time payments, and stock dividends are not generally included in the DIV indicator. So remember, that's an annualized number. Our next indicator, DY, or dividend yield. Dividend yield reflects dividend per share as a percentage of price. Dividend yield equals 100 times the dividend divided by the price. It's useful to compare dividend yield with earnings yield. If the dividend yield is not significantly lower, to do that you want to scroll back to include the earnings information. It's useful to compare the dividend yield to the earnings yield. If dividend yield is not significantly lower than the earnings yield, the dividend payment may be in jeopardy. And with our example here, how long, when you're only earning a 51% earnings yield, how long can you support a dividend payment that's yielding 1,200%? Let's reset our screen and look at our next indicator, dividend safety. Dividend safety, or DS, is an indicator of the assurance that regular cash dividends will be declared and paid at current or higher rates for the foreseeable future. It's measured on a scale of 0 to 99. Stocks with DS values above 75 typically have RS values well above 1 and earnings yield levels that are much higher than dividend yield. So if we did that same comparison, and we look at the dividend yield, it should be much lower than the earnings yield. In other words, the dividend is an affordable part of the company's regular business. The higher relative safety scores mean that the consistent financial performance of the company is more likely to deliver an assured dividend payment. Our next indicator is dividend growth. Dividend growth, or DG, is a forecasted annual growth rate of a company's dividend. It's based on historical dividend payments and dividend predictability. It's a subtle yet important indicator of a company's financial performance. It also provides some insight into the board's outlook on the company's ability to increase earnings. And that brings us finally to YSG. YSG is based on our vector formula, just as VST is, except now we're applying the vector formula to our dividend analysis. So YSG is an indicator which combines dividend yield, safety, and growth into a single value and allows direct comparison of all dividend-paying stocks in the database. Stocks with the highest YSG values have the best combination of yield, safety, and growth. These are the stocks to buy for current income and long-term growth. And of course, it's cast on our familiar 0 to 2 scale. Of course, you can cherry pick right from this list then, maybe for average volumes, or if you scroll back to the left, some of our VST analysis. Of course, you could resort the whole database to find the safest dividend payments or the highest yielding. And of course, all of these indicators and parameters are available to your individual watch list as well. So I scroll over, I have that same dividend analysis for any stocks that I have in my watch list. In the watch list view, I have the added benefit that I can look at my watch list average for these indicators, and I can see my average dividend payment, the average yield, the average safety score, its average growth. And of course, if I was going to try to weed the garden, I might try to replace any of my holdings for dividend payers with candidates who score better than my watch list average. And as I'm already used to in that process, I can graph all of the stocks in my watch list. But this time I want to analyze the dividend performance of the stock, not as much its price performance. So let's add to our graph earnings, because earnings are what drives that future dividend payment. Let's add some parameters from our dividend analysis tools. Dividend paid, dividend safety, dividend yield, dividend growth, and YSG. So I've added those parameters to our list of parameters, and I don't necessarily have to graph them all. Sometimes I may just want to reference their specific data point. But in terms of trend analysis, I'd be very interested to make sure that the dividend payment itself is trending upward over time, as is the dividend growth. And of course, as with any graph, our preference would be to see bottom left to upper right movement. The smoother the better. And as I scroll through the charts, I can look for my best candidates. And finally, STAG represents a great example of a company that has favorable dividend performance. But if I put on the high-low, the price fell from a high of $27.61 to a low of $16.66. That's almost a 40% drop. So you want to be careful of taking a 40% hit on the capital side in pursuit of a dividend yield of 7%. You simply must protect the capital side of your investment. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sell the position. If you don't want to sell, we recommend you hedge any capital losses, particularly with option trades, as we've demonstrated numerous times. With VectorVest, it's easy to find companies who are improving their value while still paying a dividend. Well, I hope our review of these dividend analysis tools will help and inspire you to achieve even more financial success. I thank you for watching. Have a great evening.